And just as a reminder of commission that there is a specific desire on the item, and that is to clarify the intent of a motion that was already made, because the public there's two different versions of what that really means. So if anything, I think, the public, the staff, the people that supported that motion need to really clarify what it was. And I think it really would be, it would really be stifling business of the city and putting the public in limbo. Again, they've already been in limbo for a month. So please just keep that in mind as to what the item is asking for, as to whether it meant to be an item for the joint meeting or it meant for just going out, not having a meeting, and selling the site in whatever way possible. So with that, yes.
If you read that in its entirety, though, it does, and it also lists the objections to the invitation to negotiate as part of the agenda item. So, I mean, it just so the public knows, it's not just about the opinion of what the intent was. There was more to it than that, as I'm reading it. I mean, you brought the motion, but brought the item, but as I'm reading that, it has numerous items there.
Yeah, there's three different parts and pieces to it: the agenda items, and then the list that the county asked for. So yes, there is, and you can take 1, 2, or 3 and do something with 1, 2, or 3, or all 3, or 2, or whatever you might want to do. And I think order of priority is, like I said, at most, or at the very least, I should say, is to give everybody a full understanding as to what actually was passed. And the 3 people that actually voted for the motion are sitting here today. With that, I will call public comment. I have Wendy Namack. Please come up to the podium. And then I will call some other names as well, if you can come down, just to try to expedite the process. Bill Gunnan. Kim Quigley.
Commissioners, staff, citizens. What an interesting, Wendy Namack, Northport. What an interesting example of civic governance. Wow. I wonder where we're going to continue to find some of these things. Whoops, excuse me. There's a new organization in town called the Northport Advocacy Alliance Incorporated. It's recently founded, and we are trying to present a balanced and equitable version of what might develop here in Northport. We have put a petition in circulation that's headed the Support Environmental Sustainable Economic Development at Warm Mineral Springs. To the Northport City Commission, we, the undersigned qualified electors of the City of Northport, Florida, support creating public-private partnerships to promote the environmentally sustainable economic development of Warm Mineral Springs and surrounding areas. We hereby petition the Northport City Commission to reconsider and rescind its decision to sell Warm Mineral Springs, and respectfully request that the City Commission return to good faith negotiations with the Sarasota County Commission to produce an invitation to negotiate that will result in proposals of possible considerations for joint approval by county and city commissioners, and to ensure future Warm Mineral Springs environmental protection, ongoing facilities management, and long-term development. In 10 days, we have 23 pages with 375 signatures. So for you to say that the majority of people out there don't want this, please reconsider.
Bill Gunnan.
Bill Gunnan, if I may, I'd like to give my time to Kim Quigley.
Okay. Kim Quigley, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you. The initial support from the Northport Area Chamber of Commerce for the city and county to purchase Warm Mineral Springs was based on several issues of paramount importance to Northport. Our primary concern continues to be that this unique natural resource be protected, managed, and developed to enhance the community of Northport, including the promotion of the area and its businesses. Ongoing government ownership will assure this perpetually in ways private ownership never could. Key advantages of public ownership are many and include items important to residents and the Northport area business community. 1. Local control of the one vital resource that annually brings thousands of visitors to our city secures operational continuity, efficiency, and additional sources of tax and other revenues. 2. Oversight of all amenities and economic development on this environmentally sensitive area ensures that irreplaceable assets are protected and used properly to include and enhance recreational and business opportunities in Northport. 3. Controlled promotion of the city of Northport and its unique ecological and archaeological resources will bring more visitors, attract new residents and business, and provide more opportunities for all. We vigorously reiterate our support for sustainable development at War Mineral Springs and urge the City Commission to revoke its recent decision to sell the property. Public-private relationships profitable to the city act as catalysts to further economic expansion, as is demonstrated by the 25-year flourishing local model of Sharkey's and the Venice Pier. We urgently request the City Commission to return to its previous unanimous decision to issue the invitation to negotiate with the county. We strongly encourage the city to utilize the ITN negotiation process as it is intended to produce additional concepts and ideas for specific amenities, capital project advantages, and new jobs for our residents and community. The original unprecedented city-county collaboration on this purchase enhanced our reputation throughout the region and made possible additional county, state, and private entity funding for projects in our area. Our participation in this regional project positions Northport to reap untold rewards and launch our city as a world-class destination. As it stands now, this potential seems severely damaged by this City Commission's actions. Critical to remember is that War Mineral Springs was purchased with surtax refunds, not from residential property tax or business tax revenues paid to the city. This infrastructure surtax is the 1 cent sales tax that funds many capital improvements projects throughout the county, providing funds for quality of life projects without relying on higher property taxes. Dedicating a part of our penny sales tax allocation benefits the city in the long run by growing successful existing businesses while simultaneously attracting new business, industry, and residents to Northport without negatively impacting millage rates. Selling our ownership interest at this time is guaranteed to result in a deeply discounted sales price that loses money in the short term. Not only would we be wasting the significant financial resources and staff efforts already invested, we would make permanent the immense loss of future possibilities. Our taxes provide crucial municipal services and develop or improve community assets and amenities. New businesses help diversify our tax base because burdens currently shouldered by existing residential and commercial property owners are lowered as our community grows and prospers. Without tax-based diversity, owners and renters will certainly experience higher taxes on businesses and residential properties. Continued economic development is the essential solution to lower taxes proportionally, increase opportunities for local businesses, and advance the quality of life for Northport residents, young and old. The Northport Area Chamber is prepared to act now. We will involve our business members and affiliates who represent thousands of local employees and their families. We will act cooperatively in concert with others in the community who feel disenfranchised by the city's commission precipitous actions without adequate public notice and at a scheduled time that prevented business owners and working residents an opportunity to express public comment. Please know that for the current and future well-being of our business community and the residents we serve, we will act in their best interests for the greater good of Northport. Thank you.
Okay. Lynn Ball. And it looks like, I can't read it, Laco Ball? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't notice till I looked up. And then Bill Wardell.
Lynn Ball, citizen of Northport. With regards to the issue being putting it on the agenda to discuss whether or not to sell our interest in Warm Mineral Springs, I'm astonished. Why would the city of Northport even consider selling our responsibility to participate in managing important environmental and cultural resources within our borders? Is it because of the objections to the ITN? In other words, is it because negotiations are difficult, tedious, and contentious when we're talking about interlocal agreements? Well, of course they are. They are because the outcome matters to the community. It matters to all of the people that are here and all of the people who are not, frankly. And so it can take a while, and it's quite difficult. However, it is not without precedent that these agreements can be extremely successful. And in fact, Sarasota County has had such relationships with other cities within its borders, namely the city of Venice. For a while, I worked for a nonprofit organization called Venice Area Beautification Incorporated, which was started by the Venice Area Chamber of Commerce for the purposes of helping raise funds for a project and a park that was an interlocal arrangement between the city of Venice and the Sarasota County Commission. That was the Venetian Waterway Park, a linear park that's now connected to the Legacy Trail and is a tremendous resource for the community. It took a decade or more actually to get it built, and it took cooperation with nonprofits, city, county, businesses. There were contracts for building. There were volunteer activist organizations, all that came together to create something that is now going to last for future generations. It involved the Department of Transportation because they had to preserve the shoreline and they had to save bushes and birds and whatever in terms of the creation of this thing. It was messy and it was difficult, and I got to be a fly on the wall for some of it. But it's amazing what can happen when municipalities and the community come together to create something. So I want to encourage all of you. There is plenty of precedent right here locally, but with the state, with the nation, in terms of businesses and different localities partnering to preserve resources and do sustainable development that is a lasting resource for their communities. I would like to encourage you to not give up on this. And those who think it's hard are perhaps being short-sighted. Thank you.
Please state your name. And
Good afternoon. My name is Lance Paul, Northport resident and citizen. Good afternoon, Mayor Yates, Vice Mayor, Commission, ladies and gentlemen. With regard to the intent to clarify the motion to sell Warm Mineral Springs in its entirety, if the intent was to sell the Warm Mineral Springs, I would encourage the City Commission to revoke the decision and to sell Warm Mineral Springs in its entirety and to return to the ITN process, the invitation to negotiate in cooperation with Sarasota County. As the previous speaker indicated, this can be a difficult process, but there is hope in our future. It is important to preserve this unique natural resource as a public asset and maintain public access to the springs. I would encourage the city to continue to foster a positive working relationship with the Sarasota County. This city has worked very hard to overcome some of the negative connotations that we've had in the past with working with the county. I would encourage the city to move back into a position where we are fostering a positive working relationship with the county. If the intent was to put Warm Mineral Springs as an agenda item on the joint meeting with the Sarasota County, then my question is to what end? In other words, what is the purpose? The previous comments indicated quite clearly that this is a difficult process that can be overcome. I would encourage the city to return to exploring ideas of allowing environmentally responsible ways to develop Warm Mineral Springs for economic development and to preserve it as a unique natural resource within our borders, and to allow public access to the springs. I would also encourage the city, and I do support the Chamber's position with regard to this particular issue. As a point of procedural process, I would encourage both the Commission and the City Attorney to consider this issue as public comments, and in the event that Commissioner Jones's absence is of major concern, perhaps to simply preserve the testimony and the public comment until such time as Commissioner Jones has had the opportunity to review the testimony and the comments today and to vote appropriately.
Well, my name is Bill Waddell. I'm a resident of Northport as well. I just wanted to come up and also show my support for the Chamber's position. I am a board member with the Chamber. I am also a 20-year resident of Northport and work locally here. I believe that there is quite a bit of importance and significance in working with the city and reversing the vote that we had moving forward with the ITN. The Warm Mineral Springs is a environmentally sensitive property, and we do have a very vested interest in working with the county and the private sector to plan the future of the springs, not just to leave it in the hands of the private sector. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Delp, and then I also have Nazarin, can't say this last name. Okay. Mr. Delp, you can go over to the podium. Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Delp, you have the 3 minutes from Mr. Isken. You have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner, Mayor, and Commissioners. Oh, my name is Bill Delp, and I'm a taxpayer in Northport. First of all, I want to acknowledge that Mr. Jones is gone, and I wish him the best. Diversity in all these matters is important, and taking the action to consider these comments, I believe, is constructive. But I do think his voice is important to amplify diversity. Secondly, I was able to, since I have 6 minutes, I was able to set in on the workshop this morning. And I think it's a perfect example of why the ITN is a completely inappropriate document to work with this, in this regard. And that is because, irrespective of contracts like Cypress Lending has at this point as a license, or any other license like that, the public entity is always at a disadvantage. I happen to have worked in the private sector and sat on a number of boards. The private sector has the advantage of knowing every one of you intimately, how you're likely to vote and where you're likely to go. They know, for example, when the deal was done in the license, that both entities were broke. They knew that. They knew how you were going to vote. It's a standard process. It's used in jury selection all the time. They also knew that there was, because you were broke and the code enforcement characteristics of this city were historic for non-enforcement, that it didn't really matter what they signed in terms of their license of intent, because they know you're not going to do code enforcement. There hasn't been any code enforcement whatsoever since the purchase of the spring. I brought to the attention of the county, who under the interlocal agreement and the MOU were given the responsibility to manage this license. It went through the people who I was told to deal with in the county. the city commissioners would not even consider it. And they were simple things like, I happen to deal in the medical device business, diving and life support. I know something about labeling. An example is, this is one of the products that was marketed there. It absolutely breaks every law from the federal, state, down to the county. It says it's a Danya product. Cure all medical pads, cure all mineral pads. You'll feel better. There is absolutely not any shred of evidence. Now you're the owners. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The county knew 2.5 years ago, because of our exploration, that the springs flow was diminished to at least on an average of 3 million gallons a day. They continued to, with impunity, to not only advertise, misrepresent, and perhaps fraudulently, their product. They stood in front of this council and others, representatives, and lied to you. No one has done anything to investigate them in terms of their license status and code enforcement. You know why? Because just like this morning, and understandably, you don't have any money. You can't get consensus about how to collect that money. The document, the license they have, is worthless. They're already so far ahead of you that you're never going to catch up in this environment. You're at a disadvantage. So eliminate the ITN. I agree in part with some of what the Chamber of Commerce position is it should remain, at least while the resource is evaluated. You don't even know what you own. That's the bottom line. That's a fact. That it ought to remain in public hands. There needs to be a way to find the money to fund it, to know what you own and what your liabilities are. There are already implied liabilities by you owning it and letting Cypress Lending misrepresent the product. There are clawback requirements that the city attorney is very well aware of for mislabeling and misrepresentation of a service. The customers who bought their tickets there didn't get what they understood they were going to receive. It's straightforward. So I just ask you to take this into consideration, that something can be done, that it ought to remain at least while the resource is being evaluated, to perhaps even move it towards a model that we use for reef restoration on the East Coast, which I was a part of for 20 years. It's the same issues: environmental sensitivity, archaeological interest, and a number of other. That matches perfectly. We were able to turn an ecological disaster in our reefs to the #1 cash flow in ecotourism in Florida by reef rebuilding. It took a little while. It was public-private, but through donations to a 501c3. And now we have environments that are pristine, and the ecotourism value is multiples, millions of benefit for South Florida. Something to consider as a model. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Swales? Okay. Juliet Jones. And Juliet, Mr. Swales will be passing this time to Ms. Juliet Jones, and you have 6 minutes.
My name is Juliet Jones. I'm a taxpayer voter in the county and Northport, and I want to thank you, commissioners, Madam Mayor, and the citizenry for letting me speak. These are tumultuous and transformational times in our collective social psyche, but the vested interests of old unsustainable era are trying to hold on. They do so by attempting to control, manipulate, divide, and conquer, and instill fear so as to effectively disempower thinking people. For many residents and voters in this town, it is very disturbing to read the thoroughly misleading docudrama being hashed out daily in the Northport Sun It's clear to me at this point that the Northport Sun appears to represent its own advertising constituency and is anything but a free press. Editorials are one-sided, misleading, and deliberately presenting a distortion concerning the real content and true objections to the present ITN process, denying transparency and the need for the current vote of the City Commission. There is absolutely no real need to rush economic development when there are serious issues pending inherent in the environmental challenges and complex developmental baselines which first need to be addressed. The ITN process was not and should not be a shoe-in. It was proposed for review only. It's a leaky vessel, and this present council saw this, and they have every right to vote it down and vote to sell the springs if they see that as being necessary. That may, in fact, give the springs itself a better chance for survival. The real problem in this whole thing is the push factor of the vested interests. Last June, representatives of the city and the county traveled to the Well-Being Travel Conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, and conferred with officials and business owners at Hot Springs, Arkansas, all on the taxpayer dollar, to try to understand what to do with this investment which they had taken upon themselves without proper due diligence and at a supersonic speed. Well and good, because the study did get in touch with the most important baseline concept which was passed along to them by the National Park Service staff. Quote, they indicated that for many years they had made incorrect assumptions about the geothermal water source and flow of the hot springs and stressed the great importance of fully understanding our resources before decisions were made which would impact the springs forever. Danny Schultz was right with his original remarks last July. We need to know more about the spring before we move forward with a long-term request for proposal for development. So, okay, how fast has the county moved forward on the environmental studies curve? I'm willing to bet probably not at all, except for the emergency test for phthalates that Christine Robinson ordered when it was pointed out that there were and still are toxic materials in the water. And by the way, how did this overall protection and preservation objective get turned around and buried by the spin circus? How did it get replaced with the polar opposite idea, which is develop warm mineral springs at a hyperspeed because time's a wasting and we need to turn it into a gold mine? Now, how did that get turned around in the last 6 months? Calculated distortion. That's how. Saying one thing after their excursion, then letting things go quiet while time went by, then surging forward with an urgent push for the invitation to nowhere. Carolyn Brown talked about how much she learned on her outstanding outing, but what has she done to put through the critical environmental studies which need to take place, which were learned about since that expensive education took place? The drums keep beating and the crowds are gathering outside City Hall, and one-sided editorials appearing daily about how the ITN has to be moved ahead now and a responsibility to the taxpayers, and talk about making progress, a petition circulating, and most amusing and ironic at all, Christine Robinson's message to the Sun, quote, I believe that the protection of the springs is vital and that we can best protect the asset. Oh, God, please protect us all from Ms. Robinson's idea of protection and preservation. Chamber insiders didn't like the news at all that our commission in Northport actually read the IDN. The county refused to even speak with the city. And they turn around and say, we are poor communicators here at the city council. There has been a trend in this country for economics insiders to live off the back of taxpayers, and people don't like it. Why should a company like Cypress Lending take the profit of their sale of Warren Mineral Springs, including the plus 30 months of management, that was some deal, and then continue to run Warren Mineral Springs ad infinitum? While this thing is being worked out, why not run it with city and county employees. As it stands, this business isn't rocket science. It's a pretty straightforward day-to-day operation. I am not alone, believe you me, when I say that I support the council members who took that vote as public servants, not self-serving politicians. It is very inspiring to see people really acting on behalf of the public interest. And now the county does want to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. John Perry, Charlotte Lenaud Broad, Bill Getz. Mr. Perry, you can step up to the podium. State your name for the record.
Good morning, or afternoon, I should say. I didn't write anything down. I'm just taking this from 15 years of experience. Oh, John Perry. And I'm a citizen here of Northport for the last 15 years. And I've owned my own business in the Springs for 15 years. And I've kept track of the manatee there. I'm state licensed as a water plant operator with the Department of Environmental Protection Agency. And that's my whole being is, you know, helping people and, you know, in our environment I'm very in. But I sat here today and I've listened, and I didn't know if I was going to speak or not. But I heard y'all talking about how with the Springs you want to protect the environment. What happened to our bobcats? You're all responsible for losing our bobcats. That's even the name of our high school. I can remember days going down the road and I'd see 2 or 3 of them, or little kittens, you know, in my backyard. But the growth that we're talking about with Northport, they're gone forever. Do you want that to happen to our manatee too? It affects the whole Charlotte County region, not just Warm Mineral Springs. These, if you know about the Springs, there's a little river that comes up, and we know there's just a little bit of flow, but that's the way nature was. That's the way God put it there to protect these animals. And they bring, the mothers bring these little pups up into the springs, and there's very little water there. So any kind of human, you know, disturbing that, we're going to lose them forever. And you know whose fault that is? That's everybody in this room. It's our commissioners that we hired, or we voted for, to protect our community. And, you know, when I heard that Northport, the city, and the county went together, what a disaster. You know, they can't even agree on the roads half the time, yet they want to try to agree on something that's nature and all that. So I don't know how I would vote, but I hope we all make the right decisions, and, you know, when we lose them, we'll never get them back again. Thank you.
Charlotte.
Charlotte Leonard Braun, property owner, citizen of Northport. I'm here today. I am one of the 375 that have signed the petition. I'm here today to ask you to reverse your action of the meeting of December 18th in regards to Warm Mineral Springs. This is a one-time opportunity for us, and we need to do it right. We need to take our time. Warm Mineral Springs needs to be kept under the control of Northport and the county, Sarasota County. It needs to be a retreat for visitors and our Sarasota County citizens. And I'm sure that we can make it that kind of a retreat. I'm respectfully asking you to revisit the issue, to entertain the ITN, and which was a 5-0 vote in July, and to work with the Sarasota County Commissioners to make Warm Mineral Springs the flagship of our community. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Getz. I'm a citizen of Northport in Sarasota County. Also, I'm on the Sarasota County Historical Commission. On January 8th, Northport's own District 3 representative and Sarasota County Commission previous Madam Chair, Christine Robinson, who has been present at the Northport board meetings, made a motion to keep War Mineral Springs as a public holding. Then during discussion, after the motion was made, Commissioner Patterson seemed to be speaking in agreement with the rest of the county board when she stated the county is not interested in buying their half. What is Northport going to do? A board or a panel of experts should be appointed by the city and the county commissioners to consider research options, evaluate proposals for research, and propose dive operations, and design and implement the management of underwater cultural resources. I handed the board a proposal that listed experts that of various fields that are interested in working on War Mineral Springs. This proposal is about seeking a greater understanding of the springs. Just like both boards voted unanimously for last July, it brings together the experts that we are lucky to have available in our area to be a real action team and set up a plan of action to move forward to a better understanding of what we own. When data is collected and analyzed, we will be able to move forward towards a solution to these politically complex issues. War Mineral Springs is a highly unlikely special place that only exists due to a fluke of nature. The resources of knowledge contained therein span the fields from hydrology to climatology and geology to archaeology. Entomologists and arborists can study pristine remains from the past 30,000 years contained in the peat and muck in War Mineral Springs. Right now, we are just seeking permission to set up baseline testing and get a health report on this fantastic feature by the world's foremost experts at the expense of those same experts and institutions that they represent. Jody Johnson and myself put this report of those experts and what they are offering together so that you can make a decision. Thank you.
Raymond Fladinga, Pete Pedersen, Kathy Lanza. I apologize if I messed up that last name.
Okay, you're not in the will. Your Honor, Commissioners,
Please
I'm Ray
state your name.
Fundiga. 7 years ago Wednesday, we moved here. Since the vote to sell our half of the springs, I've been back and forth, up and down. It's been interesting listening today. But I still think that the right way to go is to reverse course. Don't sell our share of the springs. Bring it up and turn it around. And the reason I bring that up is because over the last week, have you been reading the paper or listening to the news? University of Miami, the Rosenstiel folks that do the diving, they're closing up shop for the sake of, $250,000 a year, $200,000 or less that it costs to operate that? Okay? And then it brings to mind, what's going to happen? Well, that's going to close down, so it's in a caretaker status. How do you put something like Little Salt Springs in caretaker status? You don't. Have any of you ever traveled overseas, gone any place interesting? You know what the black market in antiquities is like. You know what people will go to great lengths to get. And it's going to be sitting there, a target, because we do have divers in Florida. So what I'm looking at is some of the possibilities of maintaining our share of War Mineral Springs, and then looking at the possibilities in combined with the Department of Interior to create a national park This isn't something new. Look at the map of Hot Springs and look and see what's parkland and what's city. There's a chunk of the city that's surrounded by a national park. Okay? It's doable. Concessionaires, that's what you call all those people on park property who are charging you $150 a night to stay in the lodge and buy a $40 dinner, okay? And guide you around in the summertime and take you out in the bombardiers and back into Yellowstone in the wintertime. And there are two or three things. There's the warm mineral springs, and we know about that, and there's the little salt springs, and we know about that, and they're totally different critters. And when they talk about interior's inability to understand the flow and things like that, it's not about our spring, it's about all springs in general. It has a lot to do with plate tectonics and a bunch of other stuff, and my wife's into that, I'm not, okay? So what I'm saying is, please, let's turn around. Remember what just happened with Little Salt Springs. The big picture is still out there ahead of us. Don't get hung up on the ITN. The ITN, we could make it go away or be quiet. Come up with an answer that gets us through the next year. And meanwhile, go hard over on figuring out how we're going to make this work. Because it's going to be to our benefit if we do it.
Thank you. Pete Pedersen.
Pete Pedersen. Well, we had 375 people sign a petition. Well, let me tell you about another figure and expression of the feelings of the people in the city. We now have two brand new commissioners up here that spent probably a fourth of the money that the incumbents spent in getting elected, and they beat them handily. And why did they beat them? Because people were tired of the way we spent our money. And part of that was warm mineral springs. I heard it over and over again myself. The new commissioners never hid anything from anybody as far as their feelings on warm mineral springs. It was very clear to them, and that was in the newspapers and some of their own materials, and that's why we have some brand new commissioners. And they are following the will of the people who elected them. This thing should have never been bought in the first place. I'm so tired of governments getting involved in public private this and private that, and the taxpayer always takes the hit on the thing. We've lost $30,000 in bad debts that we decided we were going to be a bank. We've got $500,000 in Field of Dreams. I don't know if we're ever going to get our money back, but we certainly ain't going to get the interest that's been sitting on that money because it's in their bank account. Tens of thousands of dollars have been spent to downsize a cabinet company. And I could go on, all right? It's not just what was done here, it's done with other places. We're talking about the dealings with the county, okay? I don't know if you read in the newspaper recently, the county has gotten Sharkies to take over Chinook Haven, okay? But that was not before they lost $47,000 of the taxpayers' money. And they have no way right now of coming up with getting that money back. They probably never will. To the south of us, the commissioners down there decided to buy all this land down there, and it was going to be Murdoch Village. Tore down 40 homes and disrupted those people's lives. And what's happened to it? Nothing. Those roads now are overgrown with grass, the houses are torn down, and the taxpayers are stuck with the money. All right? Now, I don't know if they're going about it by the right way, but I'm glad they're doing something to get us out of this mess. And I cannot say enough about them having the courage to do that. All right? Thank you very much.
Kathy Lanza. Then we have Elizabeth Nazarian, Steve Koski. I cannot read this writing. Charlie. I cannot read the last name. Okay. You know who you are.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Lanza, and I'm a Northport resident for about 7 years now. And honestly, I want to tell you first that I don't know Mr. Pedersen at all, but it's going to sound like I do. A little more than 2 years ago, we purchased Warm Mineral Springs jointly with Sarasota County. With little over a month to accomplish the purchase, it had to be accomplished by the end of 2010, and with too many unknowns, we jumped into a situation that today we still continue to question. We are now joint owners and have to deal with it. In November 2012, we elected 2 new commissioners, evidenced by the fact that they each received the majority of the votes. We now have a new commission. Each person on our commission is perfectly capable of independent thinking. However, since the plan for Warm Mineral Springs has been disrupted, at least temporarily, from all accounts coming out of certain of our groups and the Northport Sun, the sense is that we must keep with the prior commission's decisions and continue on. This is a new commission, and I believe they are entitled to make changes, ask questions, and get answers. We, the citizens, tiring though it may be, must take the time to attend these meetings or listen online and determine for ourselves what has transpired. At the time of the purchase, the public was not aware what the plan was other than preserving Warm Mineral Springs. And to forge ahead now, like we did with the purchase, would I believe be very imprudent. I'd like to thank those on our commission for slowing the process down, and I pray that they have the fortitude to continue on their course. I would hope that we have a provision, I'm sorry, attorney's not here, do we have a provision in the purchase agreement back 2 years ago relating to the springs that speaks to any dispute or questions that might arise? As we all know, if there's more than one person that's involved in a matter, then there will not be in total agreement all the time on all things. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Nazarian.
Elizabeth Nazarian. I'm living for 12 years here, and no, I'm living here for 12 years because of the spring. Otherwise, I will never be here. Even my husband, he likes the spring. He's swimming every day over there. I was so surprised that you ladies decided to sell the spring. I was very, very surprised. And so looks like you are against us, because you have to talk with us. You have to ask people what they want. The spring, this is world treasure. Very known, will be very soon. It's up to you what you will do with this. This is world treasure, special world treasure. Any kind of business needs advertising and good management. You have to find good manager who will be doing well for you, for us, for everybody. I'm very glad that county is against selling the spring, that they not agree to sell the spring. I hope you will change your decision and keep the spring for us. We're paying taxes, we support you, and we want from you help for us too. We want to stay here, otherwise, so we build the houses. Many people bought the houses, many people built the houses because of the spring. But there is no advertising for the spring, not right advertising. In my opinion, it's supposed to be special bus connection from Sarasota through Venice, just to the spring and back, and people could come to swim in the morning and in afternoon if they want to stay all day. There will be good money for you, good money for city, good money for everybody. Business is business, without... And the Indian people, they placed before, when I came here in the spring, they supposed to come back. I gave the phone number to Mr. Vaccaro to call them and invite them again to play at the spring. It was very nice. Like I said before, the bus connection supposed to going around. People in the store. You can ask people in the store, when you were swimming the last time in the spring, they will tell you, what is the spring? I don't know. They live in close by and they don't know what is the spring. They not understand this. Advertising, advertising, advertising. We advertising the spring like people living here. Everybody from you advertising to your friend, to people you know in the other city, inviting them. We're supposed to work that way. Thank you very much. And thank you for your help to keep the treasure in your hands.
Steve Koski?
Steve Koski, Northport, Biscayne, Price Boulevard, Northport, Florida. It's been a long process. I want to thank everybody for coming here today and letting us speak. I'd also like to urge the city of Northport to reconsider selling the springs in its entirety for a number of reasons. My position as a land manager, cultural resource manager, and professional underwater archaeologist, intimately familiar with the resources at both Warm Mineral Springs and Little Salt Spring in my involvement over the last 26 years. All I can say with confidence and conviction that public ownership is in the best interest of the public, the resources, continued historic and traditional use, and in the protection of the natural resources and remaining cultural resources that have been damaged through the years. Without any level of oversight through private ownership, no such protection is afforded, no matter what anyone tells you. While I do not think a hotel on the property is in the best interest of the site, as there's plenty of vacant land adjacent along Ortiz and on US 41, there is a precedent to maintain the property in its natural and traditional use as a spa. That is why the people have moved to Florida. Warm Mineral Springs predates Northport, and it was formed by the people who came here to bathe in the therapeutic waters of Warm Mineral Springs. And that should be allowed, number one, to continue. Added amenities and improvements that would enhance the property and continue to promote the wellness theme through local private business should be considered, as well as the promotion of natural, historic, and prehistoric themes, both which has made Warm Mineral Springs the international known property that it is today. In regard to the cultural resource management considerations, due to the finite resources of the remaining cultural resources, a conservative-minded approach should be the basis for all archaeological and paleontological research considerations. Non-destructive methods of evaluating remaining cultural resources, research-oriented sampling should be first considered before destructive archaeological models are put forth. The footprint of the area of potential effect should be evaluated for adverse effects and any impacts to natural and cultural resources. Monitoring of the land should be along construction sites should be done, and minimal construction should be done. A board of experts, to reiterate, in various fields should be appointed by the city to manage and evaluate research projects. It's important to us to protect this cultural resource, and I feel that the best way in this protection is public ownership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie Freiler, Eldron Avenue in Northport. I have no prepared notes, but some of what my peers had said before in regards to the city of Northport being involved with the county in the purchase of Warm Mineral Springs. My idea, I think, was a bad move to begin with. The government does not belong in private business. They were not founded to be in private business. They were founded to lead the people. Why we are in private business all of a sudden with Warm Mineral Springs, with the big league baseball dreams, it's money out the window. I turn around and I look on River Road, and there's a place called Snook Haven. Someone brought that up before. The county paid $2.1 or $2.5 million for it to the previous owner, Cynthia. The county took it over. A private contractor came in. I thought they were from Siesta Beach, the same people up there. We turn around a year later, and we found out that they have not paid the rent. Now, I've been out there to Snookhaven on the weekends. They have band out there. They have thousands of people out there. They sell food. They sell beer, but they couldn't make it. Why? But why was the county involved? Before Chamber of Commerce, someone brought up the fact, Sharky's on the Pier. Sharky's on the Pier is a wonderful place. You drive up in your car, you park in the parking lot, you walk down to the Gulf of Mexico, you put your blanket down, you bring your picnic basket, and you can eat right there. It doesn't cost $20. It doesn't cost $10. It doesn't cost $5. It's free. That's why it's successful. If you want to eat out there, you go in a restaurant. No problem. If you want to eat in Northport, go in a restaurant here. All private. So I ask you to consider getting rid of our part of Warm Mineral Springs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I have no more public comment. I do have a question for the city attorney, so I need some help with this. It also, just for clarification purposes, because I heard some things that were not fact, the city of Northport did not vote to sell its half of the spring. I want to make sure everybody understands that, because that is a fact. Also a fact is that the motion that was unanimously made back in July was carried out, and that was for staff to draft the ITN and present it to the commission for review.